Universe is trying to show you that your mind is playing tricks on you. Your mind is telling you you have to meet these standards, but these were just subconscious patterns that were built in me. Because universe is trying to help you surpass not external limitations, but internal limitations. Hi beautiful souls, welcome back to another episode of Soul Awakening with Shantia. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about being unbothered and not living life with any kind of urgency, or not needing to live life with any kind of urgency. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out my previous episodes. And one, I talked about the 2 paths of desire. That was kind of fun. I talked about Meghan Markle and Diana, Princess Diana, which we always call her princess, which technically, I think she got that title back, didn't she? Princess Diana. And I also had some additional notes in the description box if you wanted to know more. I'm always looking at people's astrology charts and I just find it so fascinating. I also created the Saturn in Pisces video part 1, which was originally going to be part 2, but I'm still putting together the clips for the second part 2 of the Saturn Pisces video. So in that video, I talk about your chart and how Saturn in Pisces transit, which is happening at the end of the month, will be impacting your sun, ascendant, and your moon sign. And according to Vedic Astrology, they mainly like to focus on moon or ascendant, because moon is about what you're perceiving or you're experiencing within. The ascendant is what your circumstances are, what is occurring on in your life. And the sun energy to me is about what you're emanating. But I find that whenever I do sun readings in relation to shifts and transits, that they are pretty accurate too. So it just depends on what works for you. In the part 2 series, I'm going to be using the clips from The Little Princess and The Count of Monte Cristo to talk about the shifts that we're going through. We're being taught a very powerful lesson with Pisces. There's going to be a 6 planetary conjunction happening in Pisces towards the end of the month when we receive that conjunction as well. That's teaching us a very intense lesson. So that's why the Pisces energy, even though, we're talking about Saturn and Pisces, Pisces in general is teaching us a very powerful lesson during this time. And Saturn and Pisces is going to be the longest transit in Pisces out of all the planets because it takes longer. All right. So let's dive into talking about the next, or what's going on. So talking about feeling unbothered and non-urgency in life. And I actually shot this before, but there are some technical issues, so I'm reshooting this again, and hopefully all of the concepts and ideas come out beautifully. Maybe we can even cut the running time for this. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. Unbothered. Perhaps you've seen videos where people talk about this energy of feeling unbothered, and it seems quite luxurious, right, to feel unbothered. According to Carolyn Myss, if you were to pay attention to the different floors of our soul and the penthouse being at the top, yeah, I would say that living in an unbothered life in that penthouse is quite luxurious. But from a soul perspective and just an energy perspective, it's about actually letting go of our attachments to this physical reality. And I think the two paths of desires really painted that picture of how did God design us and how is life calling us to live it and experience it. Life might be calling you to pursue more desires or some desires, or life might be calling you to let go of your attachment to desires and follow the sage pathway. For me personally, I found that I was called to follow more of the sage pathway because desires worked against me or they would self-destruct. So I found that when I was more passive and let things go, I could live a much more unbothered life and experience a much more unbothered life. So you have to ask yourself what it is you're truly feeling called to. There are some desires we are called to pursue that are not, even for me, they're not like charged with energy, but they're subtle. And part of that is just creating these videos and sharing knowledge. That's actually a desire that I enjoy and just something that I feel compelled to do. A lot of the times people pursue desires because they're not really thinking about what they should do or why they should do it. They're just doing it. And when you're called to elevate into higher states of consciousness, into that penthouse, you're being asked to evaluate why you have those desires and to really think, do I really need this? Or is this attaching me to certain expectations I have for myself? And part of that is that society teaches us to live with urgency. It tells us we're running out of time. It tells us that we have to do this or it's too late. And the soul is sort of gently trying to remind you and urge you just to come back to the present reality. When you wake up in the morning and let's say you don't, go to your technology and everything's just quiet, or you go for a walk in nature, that quietness, that's the true pace of life. Life isn't being called to live with any sort of urgency. It's just when we stack all of these expectations and standards that we feel we're having to meet, such as like getting married at a certain time, going to college, getting a job at a certain time, being financially set for life at a certain time in your life, having kids at a certain time. All of these expectations are societal. And the universe is trying to show you that your mind is playing tricks on you. Your mind is telling you you have to meet these standards. But when you let go of that, you start to realize, actually, this is just part of the collective consciousness of fear, and I'm not really being called to pursue these desires. I want to live a different life. And to other people, it seems unconventional to live that way. But to others, they start to see it as more natural. So the sage life is not a life of pursuing desires. That's why you'll see some of them married, having kids, and some of them not married and having kids, because they're just following along with their natural pathway. The universe might have a relationship aligned for you, or certain job opportunities aligned for you. Eckhart Tolle, I think he didn't meet his wife until he was in his 40s or 50s. So it's like he at some point sort of figured that out. I'm not really feeling called to do this. I personally found that when I was trying so hard to do what everyone else was doing and feeling pressured by societal expectations, it didn't work for me. I wasn't feeling it. And at some point, I started to see that something was off. Every time I would try very hard to do what everyone else was doing, it didn't feel natural to me. Something felt off, and I started to feel this resistance or this restlessness inside of me, inside of my soul, telling me that this wasn't my pathway. So that's how I found my pathway, and I started to see that non-resistance really was the way for me to go, the way for me to live my life. So no urgency, we honestly just have a natural path unfolding for us, but some people do live life with urgency, and they are caught in that hamster wheel, and that's just the way that their mind works, and that's just the way that they perceive life and how they will probably always live their life. But if you're watching this video, perhaps you feel called not to live your life with urgency because you realize that it pressures you, and that urgency is pressuring you to reach for things that are just external situations, external validation, gratification, when really you're being called to tune inward into your inner being and to connect with that experience and see how just patient and gentle the soul is. It's so patient, it's so gentle, it's not in a rush to do anything or accomplish anything. And what's so beautiful is following that sage-like path, you start to see how the universe is generously providing for you at every turn. So to some people, me not working a job seems like a radical decision, maybe even irresponsible. And actually, this is what I heard my mind telling me time and time again. My brain kept telling me that I'm being irresponsible and I was being dumb. It was not kind. But these were just subconscious patterns that were built in me. And the more that I gave my power to my soul and my heart and my spirit over those fearful thoughts, the more I found that the fear couldn't control me. It's just an illusion. So you might have a bully in you, a voice in you telling you that this isn't right, but it's just a story. And that story is not here to run your life. It doesn't run your life. And that's the amazing thing about life. When you find out where the real power is, it comes from within you. So there is no need to be triggered. Everyone's just doing what they're meant to do. There are people who are here to have impure intentions and who are here to trigger you, who are here to upset the world in some way. And you don't have to let that bother you because people are just doing what they're designed to do. Life is just doing what it's designed to do. And if you can see through that, that's amazing. That means that you're being called towards the path of the sage. That means that you get some insights into how the universe works. I have a sun I'm a Virgo in the 12th house. And so, obviously I have Virgo energy. We're all about routine and standards. We have expectations for ourselves. We can be perfectionists about certain things. But with that 12th house Virgo, throughout my entire life, I found that I would often find myself in situations where I was isolated. And in my early 20s, I learned how to let go of feeling lonely. I remember that was like a primary feeling, a voice in my head like where I was feeling lonely. But when I tried really hard to make friends, it just wasn't right. It wasn't the right match. It didn't last. So that taught me, the thing is, I love connecting with people, and life is always calling me to engage with people. When people are making those videos where they're talking about how they cut off all of these relationships and they're isolated, I don't find that to be true for me. I'm still regularly engaging with family. I'm still regularly connecting with community. I'm part of an organization of people who are just such like beautiful souls to be around, even though we don't have the same standards in life, or we're not aiming towards the same thing. I still enjoy being around them. I still enjoy communicating with them, talking with them, connecting with them. So the isolation will happen naturally. That's not something you have to force yourself to. With this big transformation and shift that's taking off right now in the collective, this is happening on a very subtle level. I don't believe in sensationalism. I don't really believe in when I say really, I think I used to have some clickbait titles when I first created my YouTube channels. I don't do that anymore because I never want to mislead anyone. There is no urgency. I don't have the answer to all of your life situation, and I would never make a false promise like that. And that is not the way the divine talks either. That's the way humans talk. Humans want all of the answers. We want an immediate answer. A lot of those videos are just dopamine. When we learn our lessons, it's happening at a slow, regular pace in life. There is no urgency. You are free to patiently learn your lessons and receive these subtle shifts that we're going through. Any sort of urgency is a mind game. And right now we're going through a situation in the collective where we're facing illusions. So on the physical, you might find that certain circumstances are just seriously like doors are not opening. This is what an initiation looks like. Doors closing, limitations showing up like nobody's business, because the universe is trying to help you surpass not external limitations, but internal limitations. It's trying to show you that your mind will panic, but there's no need for panic. So if you can learn how to calm down and not let your mind play these tricks on you, and use those tools and this beautiful instrument that the universe has offered to you, you can find that you will find yourself anchored and grounded in spite of the chaos. There are so many times throughout my entire life where I was put in situations of chaos, and I essentially grew up feeling like a peacemaker, a mediator all the time. And that was preparing me to think like this now. And perhaps life has put you in situations where you've had to learn how to become more of a peacemaker. You've had to learn how to mediate and tune into your inner being. So whatever test is showing up for you, you've already been prepared for this. You can truly live an unbothered life, and you can create that peace from within and know that there is no urgency or rush for anything. What I found so fascinating about life is that there are so many opportunities where I was given challenges. I like to, when I think about my relationship with my mom, I find it so crazy how we just trigger each other. We're polar opposites when it comes to how I think our characters, sometimes certain things and how we conduct, and we disagree on everything. And I thought to myself, you know what? This is how it's always going to be. We always disagree on like so many things and on everything. And a lot of the times I'm more logical. So I'm trying to be like, well, this is just what makes sense. And this is how things work, or even my divine logic, right? Virgo in the 12th house is divine logic, where I'm like, well, this is how the universe works. Whereas my mom's just like, nah, no. And I feel like she disagrees just to disagree with me. And it could be triggering at times. But I realize that's just the way it's designed. If I can learn how to face that with more ease, it doesn't bother me. So people are just doing what they're designed to. The world is just doing what it's designed to. You don't have to be bothered by it. People are just conducting themselves the way that they feel called to conduct themselves. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Follow your natural path. If you feel called towards more of the path of the sage, then you are being called to truly live an unbothered life. And when you're gaining your power and you're owning your power, this is where you're making choices and decisions that are in alignment with your soul and your heart, and you're no longer giving into your mind. What people do is they just create mind concepts, where they live their life in agreement with something and they have to create a different picture. They're doing some form of alchemy where they're like, oh, let me just use this situation to benefit me. But a truly unbothered life is when you stop trying to control your circumstances. That's where you're going to find the root of peace, honestly. Otherwise, you're always going to have to control your external circumstances, control or manipulate people in order to get what you want. And that's kind of the crazy thing about life, is we always have to chase something and we have to stay in that hamster wheel if we choose not to live a truly unbothered life. Can we look at our life situations and our circumstances and embrace being unbothered? Once the universe lets you into that truth of understanding that you are a divine child who's protected, there is no reason for you to fret. You can let go of your fretting because the universe has offered you that truth. And that is something that I've been having to learn. I gained access to a lot of this knowledge years ago, but learning how to put it to practice and allowing myself to integrate it has been a slower process. It's been a divinely timed process where I've had to slowly integrate this knowledge into my life and learn how to embrace it. And I always wondered why those manifesting ideas didn't really work out for me. Though I think, generally if I'm just open to life experiences, everything feels great and wonderful. And it feels like things are manifesting in my benefit to some extent. But I found that things didn't really work out for me in that way. And I've always been interested in that deeper truth of life. I've always been interested in understanding like the workings of life and why people are so unbothered. And healing work, that's just where my mind always went to. So it's like no wonder why life would ask me to live this way. It's almost telling me to put my words to practice, right? Put my money where my mouth is, kind of thing. It's like, let me see you actually live the way that you think or trying to think or you want to think. Don't just say it. Be about it. So life may be calling you to be about this unbothered energy. And the beautiful thing is that you truly get to be unbothered. All of this is an illusion. And you will be surprised. It seems radical and irresponsible to people, maybe to leave a job or to not work for money. But at that higher state of consciousness, you realize that this entire world is an illusion and that the universe truly is carrying you through everything and providing for you through everything. My guides have challenged me to really trust this experience and to not worry about certain things. It's like you're a character in a story. Just like Truman waking up and realizing, oh, this isn't real. I can go and live an entire different life. Truman in The Truman Show, if you've watched Jim Carrey in The Truman Show before, highly recommend it. I will probably use that video as an example one day for awakening and what it's like for us. But the universe is calling you to follow your heart. You don't have to stay on the hamster wheel doing something that you don't want to do for the rest of your life, not having fun, when everyone else is just being controlled by the same collective consciousness of fear. You can choose to break free of that system entirely while also mingling amongst the people who are about the system. And that's what I'm here to say, is like, we're not here to live in separate worlds. It just seems like our worlds are separate because we've risen into those higher states of consciousness. The universe will intentionally create the circumstances you need to heal, to isolate when you need to isolate, but it will also challenge you. It will provide you with contenders to challenge your thinking and say, are you truly devoted and committed to this pathway? So being unbothered and living an unurgent life means that you have to be committed truly to this and not just committed when it's most convenient. And that's one of the hardest lessons to learn, is not to just do it when it's convenient, to do it when it's inconvenient, it's difficult, it's hard, and to stick with it. And what's beautiful is now I get to be on the receiving end of things mellowing out, chilling out, and seeing how things unfold. I get a lot of the advices in the cards or when I'm journaling, writing songs, or tuning into divinity. I get a lot of the messages, but by the end of the day, I have to live my life to experience what the universe is trying to show me. And as long as I follow the lessons and the advices that life has provided me with, I find that I'm on a natural path of flow. Think about the zodiac signs, right? All of the 12 zodiac signs and the 12 houses, that's showing you the circle of life and how we learn our lessons. And with Pisces, This is the energy of dissolution, endings, and moksha. I'm a 12th house sun. I love, by the way, I also have a couple other planets there too. I love learning about divinity. I love tuning into my intuitive abilities. I love journaling about God. I love writing about it. Like, I absolutely love this stuff. I've always been drawn to this. So just follow your natural inclinations of what you feel called to do. Follow your heart, follow your soul, and follow your spirit, whether it's waking up certain desires in you. My desire is for knowledge, so that is a desire of the sort. But even in that, I bet the universe will call me to dissolve too. And I'm also kind of getting to that point in my life where I realize I've learned a lot of the main lessons. Now just receive it. Just receive it. Receive what life is teaching you. And I don't know, maybe the way that I'm hardwired is I'm hardwired to always be inspired. Sagittarius moon, I'm just hardwired to always be inspired and amazed at how life works and to communicate about it and to talk about it and share it with people. So I think that's just the way I'm always going to see it. I'm always regurgitating regurgitating the same lessons that I've received before. It's the same lessons. It's just I get to see it sometimes from a different perspective, or I get to become more passionate about it and share it in a different way. It doesn't really matter. Or talk about the same thing, which I think that's part of my path too. It's to always be passionate about the same things and to love this experience. So no urgency, live your truly unbothered life and embrace that experience for yourself. And know that whatever is occurring naturally, when you step out into that quiet, when you look up into the sky and you feel this energy of peace and quiet around you, know that that is the true pace of life. And because that is the way that life works, universe doesn't just drop a bomb on you. They're always preparing you energetically. As you attune more psychically within yourself, you'll learn how to flow with everything in life. And the universe at times will prepare you, right? Subtly, it'll prepare you for tension showing up in your life as well. But if you embrace those higher lessons, life is about knowledge. If you embrace those higher lessons, you take it with you wherever you go. Lessons are unforgettable. You want to know the cure to true happiness and the pathway to true happiness and fulfillment? It's taking those lessons with you and embodying them to the fullness. We all truly want to be happy. We all truly want to be fulfilled. But the way we go about it depends on us. Is your happiness dependent on external situations? Or is your happiness going to be dependent on how you align with yourself? And this is the human experience we're here to have, is we are here to constantly align within. Thank you guys for being here for this episode of the podcast. I will see you next time for another episode. Have a beautiful day or evening. Bye.